industry, graphic design and like, implementing stuff into video games.
That's
And
awesome.
then my brother and I do comic books too. So we have our own comic book company and we crowdfund comic books online. And
Wow.
so we've been doing that for a number of years now. It's been growing pretty well, especially since the scene we're in is getting bigger and bigger, which is nice.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I mean, and I just do art and stuff in my free time, which is basically any time I have when I'm not doing anything else that's important. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, what is? Well, I am very interested to hear about how you guys crowdfund your projects because there are so many people
Yeah.
that try to crowdfund various projects and they sometimes come up extremely short and it's a terrible embarrassment. How have you managed to crack this code and make all this work?
It's a little bit of a complicated story, but it's mostly my brother. He goes out there and goes onto other shows and stuff. There's a little bit of background information on this. Is the show started? Is this
Yeah,
what the
yeah,
show
yeah.
is?
We're
Okay,
going. We're going, my friend. It's hour
awesome.
number
Okay,
two. We're going. Yeah, go ahead,
cool,
baby.
cool. All right, so yeah, there's kind of like a sub scene in comic books. You have like your mainstream comic books, like your Marvel, your DC, your Dark Horse, stuff like that.
Yes, yes.
Then there's the scene that we're a part of, and it's kind of just colloquially known as Comics Gate.
Okay.
It's just kind of like a dig term that they gave everybody, and it's kind of like people who were kind of pushed out of the mainstream industry for just doing regular comic books and not wanting to deal with having to kind of cater to this demographic that's not buying comic books. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
like you could see in the comic book sales that we have going on right now in mainstream, they're doing really bad. And so like we're
Yes.
doing our own thing, making classics, cool style comic books, whatever we want to do. And we're not trying to cater to anybody. We're just trying to make cool comics. And so we're part
That's
of that
awesome.
group. And that thing is there's more and more people getting on board. So like there's more and more old school mainstream comic book artists that used to work for like Image and DC and Marvel and stuff back in the day, and they still have their comics they want to do, and they're kind of getting phased out by these big companies bringing in Instagram artists and people
Yes.
that are may or may not be very talented, but they have a lot of followers online, and they think that because they share the ideology, they're going to sell a lot of comic books, which clearly that doesn't work, but that's off topic. So, here what we do is we just have like a big network of creators and fans that we deal with all the time. And so we do on our YouTube channel, we do a show every Monday. My brother on our YouTube channel, he does shows throughout the week showcasing other comic creators and their projects. And he really gets out there. Like he streams, I don't know, at least 4 or 5 hours a day on other people's channels, just getting his
Wow.
his face out there and stuff. He's like the face man of our company, which is really fun. Funny.
That's awesome.
But yeah, like that's really what it is. It's about getting out there, and we've seen tons and tons of people. Like we have a small group of guys that we deal
Yeah.
with, our comic book creators, like our friends, and they don't promote themselves. So like,
Yes. Yes.
they do a couple $1,000 campaign, and maybe that's all they needed to fulfill or anything. But and then people who do go out and fulfill themselves, they can reach several tens of thousands of dollars. Or there's some people in the scene that we're in that have multi-million-dollar campaigns.
Wow.
um, and yeah, they're just killing it. Like they're gonna make their living on doing that. And so you got to go out there and grind, and that's what we do. And that's the
That's
comic book
awesome.
thing.
That's awesome. Now, you guys were at Exotica this last weekend, in Chicago.
So the connection's kind of breaking up.
Can you hear me, my friend? Can you hear me? We're live. Can you hear me, Brandon?
It's still pretty bad.
Okay, well let's do this. Let's hang up. Let's get a different call going here. We will call back to Brandon, and we will continue to try this again. The internet has not been our friend today. We'll try this again. Let's see. There's all sorts of lovely connection issues. We will see if Brandon can hear us now. Brandon, can you hear us? We're live, buddy. Can you hear
Yeah,
us?
I can hear.
Fantastic,
I'm gonna put these
fantastic.
headphones in and see if that has anything to do with it.
No problem, no problem. We're having a lot of internet issues here for whatever reason. When Cox Internet has not been my friend the last week or so. So it is
Yeah.
probably something on my end of things. But we have got a great guest with us today. Joins us live here on our big broadcast. And so, Brandon, how do people contribute to what you guys are doing and get involved with what you guys are doing out there? Is it basically just zadecomics.com? Is that the best spot to send people to?
Yeah, that's basically. I mean, it's a pretty basic, rudimentary website, but it's basically just a portal page. So you could go on to zadecomics.com and see like all of our social media links, or you could click on, like Magic Cop. That book is in funding right now. It's kind of in this in-demand thing, and we're actually going to be fulfilling that next week. We're going to start shipping those books out. So they're at the printers right now. So yeah, you could go there. We have 2 books that are out in in the store, basically kind of online, so that you could buy those. And yeah, you could access both of those on our website right there. Or you could go to indiegogo.com and just look up, our Magic Cop or the Lost Pages.
Fantastic, fantastic. We have got a great guest with us today. He joins us live here on our big broadcast. Brandon Diaz is with us. He is fantastic. The website is zadecomics.com. That's ZAID comics.com. So you guys were out at Exotica this past weekend, networking and promoting. Talk to me a little bit about the experience.
That was a lot of fun. I kind of got just invited to the show. They were just like, hey, at the last minute, like maybe 3 weeks out from the show, they're
Wow.
like, hey, we're still taking table signups and stuff, and they brought me out, and that was really cool. I live right over here, so it
Yeah,
wasn't that big of a
yeah.
deal for me to come out, and that was the first show that I've done where I was able to show off my not safe for work art. Generally, when I go to
Fantastic.
like Wizard World or C2E2 or other comic like conventions, the not safe for work art stays in like a closed binder at the end of the table, and people can look at it if they want. Here, I almost had no comic art or anything like that, and I was just showing off my paintings and my traditional drawings of like pinups and stuff. And man, it was so cool to see how open everybody is just in general. Usually when I talk to people about doing that style of art, I'll be like, oh yeah, I really like drawing butts or whatever, like on women and stuff. And then they're like, oh yeah, yeah, that's okay. Like, don't worry. And it's like, yeah, I'm not worried about it, but like, you don't have to
I'm not
reassure
worried
me or
about it.
anything.
That's
But
awesome.
here, everybody was just like super, super cool about it and really open. And it was really fun to be around because, I'm not around that a lot. Like in the video game industry, it's a little different. You get like
Yes.
the boys thing, but you're not like talking about that stuff all the time. It was a blast, and I moved a lot of pieces, which is
That's
cool,
great.
especially
That's great.
moving so
Yeah.
many of these. Yeah, and that was awesome. And like the funny thing that I kind of didn't expect so much was the amount of people that would want commissions. which is like,
That's
which is
awesome.
pretty cool. So like, I was kind of nervous going to this thing because my brother usually goes to the shows and stuff with me, and he's really good at selling. So he's kind of like that, guy at the festivals or whatever with the cane and stuff, like bringing people over to the table.
Yep,
And
yep.
he was not going to be there really much, and so I was a little nervous. And then I was also thinking like, you're going to get a lot of guys just trying to simp for the chicks that are going to be there. Like they're not going to come over to some guy sitting at a table, with art. And then I was right about that aspect. I didn't have a lot of sales to single men. I had a predominantly, mostly couples, and that
That's
was
great. That's
not
great.
expect that. Yeah, I didn't expect that at all. It was very interesting, but it makes sense because they would come over and he'd be like, "Hey, honey, oh, look at how good this art is, and wouldn't this be really nice to have like two pictures up in the bedroom or like three pictures like this, and I could see them, cascading on the wall, and that was really cool. So yeah, I had
That's
a really
great.
really good time.
That's great. I'm glad it worked out because there was there was a lot of activity. Well, I
Yeah.
have to say, I have never been to the to the Rosemont, Illinois. I like to call it Rosemont, Illinois, not the Chicago Exotica, but the Rosemont, Illinois Exotica. I'd never been, but I heard that it is a huge event. And I was so glad that there was all sorts of things going on. So I'm really glad that you were able to make some stuff happen as well. I think that's great.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't get to go to like any of the parties or anything like that just because
You
I
weren't
had
missing much.
no, no.
We went to one on Friday, and it was basically everybody down at the hotel bar, spending way too much money for these overpriced drinks.
Oh,
So
for sure.
that you weren't missing much.
Well, then that was good. I got some other stuff done then in the meantime. So,
So, how long have you been drawing and putting your art and everything out there?
um, I've been a graphic artist for over 10 years. So I do a lot of like logo design, promotional stuff, Facebook things. I work at this company that we have so much stuff going on. It's called Galloping Ghost Productions or the Galloping Ghost Arcade.
That's
And
awesome.
I've been working there for over 10 years now. And we have the world's largest arcade and we have a video game production company. And like we do um, reproductions of arcade art that would go on arcade cabinets and stuff. So I have a lot of stuff and or rather I have a lot of time where I get to do so many different types of art styles like 3D modeling and engineering and 3D printing and stuff like that too. So
Wow.
I've been doing that for a long time. Illustrating as far as like comic books or anything like that, that just started about 3 years ago. I was doing some digital paintings and stuff a little bit before then when they started coming out with like the Samsung Galaxy tablets that had the note pens and you could draw
Oh
right on the
yeah.
screen.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, I started doing that and then illustrating. My brother and we were actually doing comic books with photography, kind of like, I don't know if you're a gamer or anything, but like the old Max Payne games where they had
That's
like
awesome. That's
photographs
awesome. Yeah.
of the characters in like these still frame things. So we were doing that like 2010 and 11, and then uh, a couple years ago we kind of stumbled across the Comicsgate thing, and from there I was starting to do some illustrations and like more comic book style drawings, and we just kind of came up with the idea like, hey, we have this IP that we want to work on. It's expensive to use other artists. My art is getting
Yep.
sellable, and maybe we could do some comic books. And so we started on that, and we've just been going and doing that ever since. And since then, like our first comic book we did called, Magic Cop, the first one.
Yeah.
It's 92 pages, so it was just 92 pages of grinding out on sequential art, which is, as if any other comic book artist out there knows, it's not the easiest thing to draw sequential art. So it was just a year of, what would you say, like crash course in comic book art. And then we went on and we did our second book, The Lost Pages. And now we have Magic Cop 2, which is another 92-page comic book. And so it's just been nonstop grinding, like 4 or 5 pages a week, every week
Wow.
for years.
Wow. So, take me through the process of building a comic book. How, because it's not just the drawings. It's a little
Right.
bit more than that.
Yeah, yeah. It's different for everybody. But for us, my brother and I, we are together almost all day, every day. We work together, we share an office, um, and we bounce ideas off each other all the time. And so, when we were doing our first one, I had at work, we worked with arcade games and stuff. And so I had just kind of jokingly came up with the term Magic Cop. And then we just thought like, hey, that's a really clean, very easy title that's kind of catchy. It's so simple that people are going to be able to resonate that in their head. And, it's not, and it's basically telling you exactly what you're going to get. And so from that point, we came up with the aesthetic that we wanted to go with. Everything that we do generally starts off as a joke. So we were like, well, he's this
Okay.
cop and he knows magic and like he's like a wizard, but and then it's set in like the 1980s, so it has like this Miami Vice vibe to it, and we're gonna go with like that whole thing. And so we just kind of layered on this universe to it. But before we made it into a comic book, we designed a side-scrolling beat 'em up arcade game for it. So something like Teenage
That's
Mutant Ninja
awesome.
Turtles or Bad Dudes or like Double Dragon. So we created that universe as a video game. And so we have like boss characters and our heroes in these different settings and stuff like that. And so when we decided to finally make it into a comic book, we had some back world information already. We had a lot of characters. We had a lot of things that we were able to use in that comic. And then my brother's passion is writing. So like I really love just sitting down and just drawing or painting or stuff like that. He just loves writing. And so he will just
That's
sit
great.
there and just like formulate these worlds in his head and come up with like dialogue, where, I want this character to have this type of personality and things. And so we get
Nice.
together a little bit on the general storyline, like where we want the story to end up. Do we want certain scenes or something that's going to be cool? But then he goes and flows it all together with your dialogue and your journey that's actually through the story.
That's
And he takes
awesome.
yeah, he takes a lot of pride in doing that. Like he'll go and research like the old masters of storytelling to make sure that it's the messages are being conveyed properly and it doesn't sound weird, and or you want
Wow, there's like some continuity and everything. I think that's cool.
he's crazy about that stuff, in the best
That's
possible way.
crazy about that stuff.
Yeah,
That's
he's
crazy.
all about that. Whereas like character design for me is really important. He's all about character personality. And because we work together so well and we're together all the time, we have that unique dynamic where we could get both of those sides of those things together and make a really good universe for these things. For other people, it's different. We have a lot of other stuff too where we use other artists. And so my brother basically just creates everything on his own and then sends it off to the artist, and then the artist interprets the script. So we have both facets of what it would take to do a comic book here.
Fantastic. Well, before we let you guys go, how do we get in touch with you to help you support your comics and everything else? Because you guys have got a really, really cool piece of business here.
Yeah, you could look us up. We're basically on every platform. If you want to follow us on Twitter or on Instagram or anything like that, you could look me up. My handle is at Zaid Ninja, basically everywhere. So it's ZAID Ninja, Instagram, Twitter, everything like that. Or you could go to zaidcomics.com. Like I said, it's a portal page, so it has all of our links to our stores and our Instagram and Facebooks and Twitter and all of that stuff there at the top. And you could read a little bit about our stuff on there as well.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate you making time for us today. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for chatting with us. And we will talk to you soon. Thank you, my friend.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. There he goes. That is Brandon Diaz from Zaid Comics. And we are going to take a timeout, 30 seconds. When we come back, we have got more coming up on our big show.
Log on now